be really interested to see how many people here are doing online consults now and how they're finding it, how their patients are finding it, and moving on from that, which should be good. Moving into side hustle, so looking at what is and isn't a side hustle as well, so personal versus clinic, because this is a bit topical at the moment, especially with people moving away from being within the clinic, is how can we do this so that it's win-win for both parties? And I hope you guys can hear me all right. And then I'm going to finish with a Q&A at the end. We'll be answering questions throughout, so please throw them in the chat box throughout. And someone who's not presenting will be looking at the questions and they can shout out to us and say, oh, this is a good question on this, because it probably won't have that up at the same time. So that should be good. And I'm just going to let a couple more people in. Bella, how are you, mate? Good, good. All right, so just quickly, before we get started now, we're going to start with online consults as the first thing. Just in the chat box, who's currently, just a yes or a no, who's currently doing online consults at the moment? Just throw that in the chat box for us, guys. So quite a few people I'm seeing yeses, a few no's, but mainly yeses through there. And just if you could also just post in the chat box, are you finding it's more useful, the same, or less useful than an in-person consult currently? Same, less. Getting a few different answers coming through. More useful right now. Thanks, Arbella. Depending on the stage and situation, different for everyone, same for the most part. Too time consuming. Can I just get you to unmute yourself, Cara, before we get into this? I'm really interested to know why, like what part of it is too time consuming for an online consult for you? I've just unmuted you. You there, Cara?
Just saying a lot of background noise.
No, that's all right. All good, all good. All right. Well, and Anna, mixed, great for early post-op, challenging expectations at times, which is really good. So I think we'll just start by going through some of our experiences with online consults so far and how we've tried to set it up and make it as useful as possible. I think the big thing with online consults for us, not just at our clinics, but the clinics that we work with and the people that we mentor, is making sure that it's not just a knee-jerk reaction that, oh, we can't see people in person, so this is just as good, and then suddenly trying to convince people that they should be getting online consults. Whereas previously, we obviously were pushing them for in-person consults. And I'm also getting a lot of therapists who are putting their hand up and saying it's actually dangerous trying to get people to online consults because, and maybe from a lack of growth mindset area, they're looking at it going, well, what happens in future when I want them to come back in? And they say, well, why can't I just continue on with these online consults? So there's different views to this at the moment, which I think is really interesting. And where I sit and where I think Mick and Andrew sit as well, is online consults they're exciting. Like there's a lot of opportunity here with these online consults for not just now, but in future. I think one of the opportunities that we're looking at, that we're excited by, is the fact that this is a way to help more people. And people that might not otherwise be able to, sorry, Matt, I'm just muting you. People that might not otherwise be able to come and see you, whether it's a geographical issue, you might be in a different city to them, you might be an hour away and they don't want to drive. This is going to help with those convenience issues. Maybe in future, that person that was going to cancel because they're stuck at home or they're sick or their car broke down or any of these types of things, they can now have a consult with us. And they can still do it because it's an online consult. So I'm looking at all these opportunities as well as from a team member point of view of flexibility. How much flexibility can we then have with our team in future? Because I know being a physiotherapist and being a business owner, one of the things that I see a lot and hear a lot is I would love more flexibility in my role. I would love if I could have 2 days at home and 3 days at work or something like that. Like in many other industries where there are opportunities to not be working face to face. So I think that's super exciting as well. So moving away from having to be within the clinic to at the end of this, if we absolutely nail this, we're going to be able to have much more flexibility in our role. And I also think the other huge opportunity that I see is chronic pain. People come in with chronic pain, and we know manual therapy does them more harm than good. So looking at, is this an opportunity for those people to not even be able to get manual therapy, to not get reliant, and we can push them straight into exercise therapy while still building great rapport with them. So I think that that's going to be cool as we move forwards. Now, there's a few things I wanted to run through today for online consults. What we do prior to the consult, so how we are communicating this with our current clients and new clients coming to the clinic. The platforms that we're using, just run over them real quickly. Building rapport online, the environment that you set your room up and how you set that up to get the most out of yourself, doing some objective assessment and treatment. They seem to be the main things that we're getting questions about. So let's start with prior to the consult. And I think this comes down to how we're communicating with people, whether it be through marketing, whether it be through actually talking to those people. And if we're looking at the marketing side of it, are we showing them the benefits? Are we going into the evidence about how we don't actually have to be touching people and looking at exercise therapy and how that can be super useful? And really just, are we educating people? Because I'm seeing a lot of people at the moment who are pushing back on the marketing. There's less content going out there, whether it's paid content or free content. There's just less that I'm seeing on Facebook and Instagram. And I would love to see more. You don't have to be selling anything at all, but we've got all this time. We've got a lot more time than we normally do. So why don't we put out a bit more content? Why don't we aim to put out one piece of content every day that shows how we can help someone online? Can you do an online consult with a team member, a family, a friend, and chop up a few bits of that into 30 or 60-second clips and even put that out there? I think the main reason people are very cautious about coming to online consults, especially as a new client at the moment, is the fact that essentially we're trying to sell air travel to people in the 1700s, right? They're just not ready for it yet. And so we need to just educate at this stage. And the more that we can educate people through our different means of social media, email marketing, etc., the more effective this is going to be long-term, and the less it's going to seem like a knee-jerk reaction to just come see me online. Because talking to patients, that's what they've said. It just seems real knee-jerk. You've always seen me in person, and now you're saying it's just as good for me to see you online, but you've never mentioned that before. And that makes sense to me. So let's just get education out there, content out there. And whether you're a business owner, a team member, it doesn't really matter what field you're in, right? Just looking at how we can contact those people and tell them a bit more about it. Now let's look at the environment setup, I think is really important. So just making sure you've got some sort of nice plain wall behind you. You're in a secluded room so people can't walk in and out for privacy reasons. Just make it as professional as possible. Just the same as if they were going to come and see you in a clinic, make sure that they can come and see you and they just get that professional feel. So thinking about first impressions through your online consults as well. Then moving into, and probably one more thing with that, I found that's really helped me has been having a stand-up desk. I feel like I can just be more myself when I'm standing up compared to when I'm sitting down. So looking at what's best for you and what allows you to, I guess, be yourself the most. Tips for converting people from in-person to online. Now, this is probably one of the ones that we're going through the most ourselves at our clinic. We're not really trying to get new people online, but we're trying to look at how we can get our current clients who are ready for it to be online. And I think that comes down to education and rapport within the session. So making sure that if you're with someone and they are appropriate to be seeing online and you're not wanting to see them in person, well, how can we start to push them towards online? How can we educate that person that online will be the right way for them moving forwards? And I think that's just a massive opportunity in itself. Who here, just a question to the group, Who here has successfully taken most of their clients from in-person to online? %, Mick. Karen, yes. Daniel Arbella, most of them. Anna, 50 to 60%. Good work, guys. That's pretty good, approximately 50%. 50 to 60. Good. 60 to 70, Alex. Darren, about 30%. And Darren, just to that one, are you trying to push everyone to online, or are you sort of just pushing the ones that you feel are appropriate at that stage? And Ellen, the ones who need you. Good. Now you have plenty turning up. Awesome. So I think that that's going to be the other thing as well, is depending where you are in Australia as to how many you're going to have to be pushing online. In South Australia, we don't have many cases, so we have still a reasonable amount in clinic. If you're in New South Wales or Victoria, you're likely going to be pushing more people online. It's just going to really come down to the rapport you have with that person and educating them about the benefits of online. And if you've got someone in front of you and they're a little bit nervous about being online, do a session with them where you don't touch them at all. Show them that by the end of that session, hey, we could have done every single thing we did here online. So just showing them that value, I think, would be really good. Objective assessment. So just to touch on objective assessment really quickly before we move into a few more things. A lot of people are saying objective assessment, how do we do that effectively because we can't do our special tests? For me, it's just asking them, what are the movements that cause you pain, and can you show me those movements? And then just asking them to go through a few different movements for you, just looking at, let's say it's the shoulder, can you lift your arm up in front? How does that feel? Up to the side, how does that feel? Can you lift something and just give them something that they might have around their house? But just start thinking about what are the common things that we can just get them doing, because it probably gives us a lot more value than asking them to do an empty can test or something like that. I think the value in online consults is it's making us actually be better therapists, because it's taking away a lot of the stuff that doesn't have brilliant evidence behind it. And then treatment is probably the traditional objective assessments are overrated. I agree. I think if you can see someone move functionally, that's the best objective assessment you can get. And from a subjective assessment, you should already have most of your information that tells you what you need to look at in your objective assessment.
Pete, can I just jump in here, mate? I'm really interested in what lines and what in-clinic strategies that people use to encourage online consults. I know my observation is the clinics that are still like 1 foot in each camp are really struggling. That's a tricky thing. I think patients are seeing a little bit of a disconnect with clinics that are saying, can you come and see me online when they're still open? That's really tricky. The clinics that have committed to online have probably done it a little bit better. What strategies do you have to convert patients to online, particularly those clinics that are still open? And we're not saying there's a right or wrong there. It's just I'm noticing it's quite difficult for those clinics to get patients online. And I'll start and I'll open up to AZ as well. The strategy you just touched on is actually showing them the software in the clinic. Whilst you've got patients coming in the clinic, we're just sending them a text really quickly with PhysiTrack or Clinico and actually getting them to open it up there. And they're almost doing an online consult at the end of their consult. That's helped them a hell of a lot. And it's made them a little bit less fearful of the tech as well. And often there's a lot of practitioners in here still doing hands-on. Often our therapists were saying, that technique you're doing for your quad or your hamstring, we could show you a way to do that at home. For those people who are still doing manual therapy and those patients who really value manual therapy, I'm going to show you how to do that at home, or we could get the rolling pin out and do that at home. So there are a couple of our strategies that helped quite a bit to get people to the online. AZ, did you have any strategies there?
I think showing them is a big part, and it's not just getting to end of the consult and saying, cool, we're going to go to online now. We need to pre-frame just like we pre-frame everything else with people's managements. And if we can show what it looks like, show how easy it is, explain how it's going to run, then we're going to give our patients a lot more confidence. So I agree with you, Mick, just being able to show them as much as we can, whether that's in consult, whether that's over emails, whether it's jump on a call and explain things. We haven't seen someone in a couple of weeks and you're now shut down. We might have had that same opportunity. So just how can we educate? Pete mentioned before, can we create some videos, some snippets of using it? We created one for our clinic where it was a 10-second video of just how easy it is to click from your email to open a consult. Trying to address all those fears. Someone who might not be as tech savvy might just be thinking, no, I'm not going to bother trying. It's going to be way too hard. So can we show as much? Can we educate as much as we can?
Yeah, awesome. And a good question there from Sherry is, can we ask if your clinic is open, why are you trying to convert people to tele? So great question. Just before I answer that, I might ask the group, because I'd love to harness the power of the collective here, and there's some amazing brains in this room. What, if you could dot point 1 or 2 strategies you've used, or 1 or 2 lines you've used, if you guys could go for that in the chat, that'd be amazing, so we can all scroll through and try and make the most of this transition. The reason, so we're still open, Sherry. You could go to our website and book online as you normally would, but we've got some very specific descriptors of what we're doing for COVID, and we're calling every single patient and having the conversation with them, almost in a way of asking them questions about how safe they feel, how safe we feel, and we're trying to triage them to online as much as we can. So for intensive purposes, you could book an appointment in our clinic. And that was just a personal decision. No real reason other than a personal and team decision for us, is we wanted to be able to at least control who comes into our clinic and who doesn't. And that's just the strategy we went with from about 3 weeks ago. So I probably don't have much more valuable information other than that was a decision our team came to. What did you guys do, AZ and Pete, on that?
We're still open, so we're still sort of 1 foot in each, but probably mainly in person rather than online.
Yeah.
How we're presenting that is, it really just depends on the person. If someone comes in and they're in a low risk age group, they're probably happy to continue to come in. But we have a lot of people who are over 60 who have cancelled because they just don't feel comfortable. Even though we have low amount of cases, it's relatively safe. It's better for us to be able to offer them an alternative, which in that case is the online consult. But we're not actively pushing on everyone that comes within the door.
Can I ask the group as well? The big chat, and we probably should move on because I'd like to keep this to an hour. After this question, how did you guys go about pricing? And I'll ask the same to the group as well. Did you guys go higher, lower, or no change? We went with a contribution model, which was something quite unique, which was, we know it's a difficult time for everyone. We want to meet you where you are. So we're doing consults by contribution. So what that meant is they could pay anonymously after the consult at a level they were happy with. We gave 3 suggested tiers. What was really interesting about that is most people picked the middle or the top tier, which was the same as our normal consult. Some people were picking the top tier, which interestingly was higher than the normal consult at 2 of our clinics because we had different price points. So that was really amazing, but it also allowed people to come through and pay $20, and we were able to keep them engaged in movement and their health and their mental health, and they were able to contribute what they felt. And again, as a clinic, we felt like we would rather be seeing people during this time, keeping them going, keeping them engaged with their health, even if it meant it was a free consult or $20. So what did you guys do, AZ, around pricing for telehealth?
Yeah, we did decrease our price. And I think a lot of that was due to probably, everyone's financial situation. I think the interesting question I would like to ask everyone in the future is, what would you do if it wasn't people losing their jobs and no one had financial security at the time? Would you still decrease the rate? Because I'd say our team only decided to decrease because of that factor, not because it was online. And now with health funds slowly coming on board and all that kind of stuff, it just shows that there's going to be lots of change in terms of what people do. I wonder if people have even changed just from this week with health funds coming out. Have they put their prices back up because they knew the out-of-pocket was going to be different, and now it might not be again. So look,
Yeah.
we decreased by about $25, I think. But yeah, I think long-term, I would like to see online consults valued at the same as face-to-face. If what we say the evidence is our communication and our exercise management and guidance, none of that really changes. We can still get great results. So I don't think we have to decrease the value in price.
Awesome. Thanks, mate. Let's go to the next slide, Pete, and we'll try and rocket through and answer the questions as we go. I'm just scanning the questions here, sorry. There's a lot of good information here, guys. I wonder if you copy and paste this or screenshot it, or maybe we can put it into a doc after. That would be really cool. Subjective history, it's more important than ever now. This is the conversation we were having is this helping young therapists or not? I was having a chat to my two youngest therapists, Kat and Josh, saying this is really challenging because that framework that uni put in for us, which a lot of us spend our times bagging out, that framework, it's a base to start from and refine your knowledge. And sometimes structure at the start helps you branch out and start to niche and figure out that's the evidence, I want to do it this way or I want to do it that way. The framework's almost been taken from us now. If you're a new grad and you're shifting to online, you don't have the advantage of that 1 or 2 years under a mentor, even if they're old school or doing a certain framework or a certain objective assessment. I was kind of leaning towards those few years of experience, even if I thought I was doing it the wrong way, have helped me transition to online because I feel like I can identify certain patterns and identify someone's shoulder and at least have a bit of a framework in my brain of what I want to do. That's gone now, which is scary but exciting. It means that our young therapists have to get really good at the subjective history, asking really good questions, some of the reflective listening and motivational interviewing. I think that will accelerate that skill set, but they might struggle with pattern recognition and things like that. So we're just doubling down on our kind of case review treatment mapping. What are you guys doing? And what are you finding around that subjective history? What are your favorite questions? I might start with you, Pete.
In the subjective, I don't think much has changed, to be honest, subjectively for us, if anything. I think it's just making sure that we spend a little bit more time, and it's just also getting them comfortable with it is the harder thing.
Yeah.
I found that someone that I would talk to face to face, when I talk to them on a Zoom call, they give me a much shorter answer. And so maybe it's just making them a little bit more comfortable with the actual software itself.
Yeah.
I've had one person who did say, look, I'm just in somewhere where I don't feel super comfortable talking about it right now, which is a slight issue for them. So they lived in a shared house and it was a little bit of a private kind of issue that they were having. So they didn't want to talk about that. So just keeping that in mind as well, is it something that they want to talk about if it's stress and sort of relate to those kinds of issues. What about yourself, AZ? What sort of questions would you put in extra?
I think in this landscape, probably just getting more clarification on how it's affecting them right now. And that could be with physical activity. Like they may have gone to a gym previously and now their exercise routine has changed. They're not doing the same types of exercises or in the same environment that they were. So I'm someone who was in the gym and now all I've got is running. And so new issues are popping up. Or it could be that the gym is my out for all the stresses in life, and now I don't have that. And so getting clear on not only how they're feeling, but how it's now affecting them in a slightly different climate, depending on where they are. You know, is work now at home as well? Who else is at home, and what does that do for their thoughts, their feelings, their stress? So that's probably the bigger difference. Like you're still going to ask those questions, but just knowing that those climates have changed. Like if people still might give the general answers, like at work, this is happening. It's like, well, how much time are you spending at work now? Oh, that's actually decreased a lot. Is this still the main driving factor? Yes, no. So just getting really nitty gritty with what the situation looks like for them now.
Yeah, I've got a couple suggestions here. Beck's great suggestion. So what are your favorite questions to ask? I've put a few in there. How are you going with isolation? I think we just need to start opening up that dialogue before we even talk about pain or injury patterns. And And what does this mean to you? So how is this impacting you is one we go over in the course. Where else is this showing up for you? So if someone's got shoulder pain or a bit of knee pain, how is this impacting you? Where else is this showing up for you? And often that'll get them really thinking about, oh yeah, it's getting me on stairs, or actually I've stopped running as much, or I'm trying to do CrossFit or F45 at home online and now I can't. And because you've started with, how are you going in isolation? I think they're going to start to link the two and really see the value of their health. Starting to see a lot more persistent back and neck pains in our clinics, and, with less load, less traditional load, obviously more stress and anxiety around. So we're really starting to see that rise up. I think we really have to open that conversation with them. Also, did you just cavitate your neck, Pete, live?
Absolutely.
I really heard that.
Absolutely. And just to Lisa Parkinson's question there, that you can get responses are a lot shorter. Also finding the internet's hard at times. One thing that I've done when someone doesn't have great internet is we'll still do the Zoom call, but I'll give them a phone call at the same time, and then we'll mute both ends. That way we can still see each other even though it's delayed, but it's got much better audio with that. Or not Zoom call.
That's a great tip. I think what this time does is it really magnifies the importance of connecting with people. And that is really great for young therapists. We need to get away from special tests and a step-by-step or a treatment recipe. And this is all about connecting with humans. And whether you're coming from I just want to be the best damn health professional, or you're coming from I want my team to be busy, or you're coming from I want to earn more money as a therapist, all of those things start with connecting with humans. And that's why the subjective questions and the reflective listening and the motivational interviewing, all those things we talk about at the course, if young health professionals accelerate those skills now, that is going to be good, because that is the answer. That is the answer to getting better outcomes. It's the answer to getting busier. It's the answer to a busier practice. We spoke about the triangle, whether you're an employer, a team member, trying to make more money, trying to be the best physio, trying to be the best EP. You need to connect with humans. And I'll just wrap up this slide on the clinics that are doing best through this they're the clinics that have connected with their humans. They're nurturing, they're asking the right questions. And I love seeing that. I love seeing the clinics that are just going back and calling all their patients one by one and just checking in if they're okay. So I think that's a really good thing.
Beautiful.
Rebooking. I put this question in because our team members have struggled with some rebooking with online. I'd love to know the group's thoughts. We even sometimes measure PVA for those of you who know what that is. People are saying that that's dropping, and it's hard once you've got someone online to say do a second or a third consult. My short answer is it shouldn't change at all, but I'd love to open that up to Pete and AZ. What are you finding, Pete? Have you got any specific strategies around that?
I don't think it should change at all. I think we're seeing it's actually easier at the moment to rebook effectively. People have a lot more time. They're a lot more flexible. And because they're not traveling, if it's an online consult, I think it should be easier than ever. And it just comes down to that rapport and relationship you've built with that person. A lot of the people that I talk to at the moment, it's less about the actual physical issue, and they're feeling more pain because of stress and anxiety and everything else going on in their life. And so just having someone to be able to talk to there and just listen to them, I think, is more effective than anything else that we could do at the moment. But what are you finding, AZ, with the rebooking at the other clinic?
Very interesting. I've got a couple of younger therapists, and they've actually gone the opposite. They've actually said it's easier to rebook now that it's online, and it's really shown their beliefs. So one of our therapists in particular, she came to me and said, I can just see how I could actually rebook people more, because I'm not worried about the travel time or rushing from work, or are they getting the full value? So I think almost the in-person sessions felt more pressure, because I need to change pain, I need to do hands-on, and I feel bad for making them travel, drive in half an hour, wait in the front, and then come in and we educate and we guide. Whereas an online consult, they can do from work. If they just stay back, they can do it from home. They actually felt the opposite. Like, the quote from one of our therapists was, I could see how much more effective I could do 5 and 2 with online bookings. So that was really interesting.
I think I've put in there, AZ, this really connects to why we're rebooking and why we want to see someone in the first place. We speak about this, the old biomedical model was, because we want to see the tissue healing, or we want to see scar tissue, or we want to do manual therapy again. So it's like, back then it seemed like people wanted to rebook more, but we've been arguing, if you're a modern evidence-based practitioner and you're about behavior change and challenging someone's beliefs, nudging someone's beliefs so they actually get that healthy behavior change, that takes time, and that takes education, and that takes seeing someone, and it takes reflective questioning. It takes them time to let the idea simmer in their brain, come back with a response. We also speak about how people forget 80% of the consult and misinterpret a big chunk of it. So I challenge young therapists on, why do you want to see them again? Okay, they're a persistent back pain case and they have unhealthy beliefs about their back. Cool. That's not going to change after your initial consult and seeing them again in 7 days. So I always nudge them towards, well, let's check in with them on Wednesday. Not to do a manual therapy, which we can't even do now anyway. It might not even be to progress their exercises. It might be, how did their back respond to what you gave them? I always say, I still don't know how someone's going to respond. I love giving the wavy line analogy. And I truly believe that even with experience, you don't know if someone's going to have like that mini flare up, or they're going to be much, much better after 3 days. I like to check in on that response, both physically and mentally. What was your mental response to the information we were chatting about, the conversation we had about your back? So for those people who are struggling, if you're a young therapist or you're a clinic owner and your guys are struggling to rebook because of online, I try and have that conversation about, why are we actually rebooking? People who struggle, I think, would probably lean too much on the physical side of things. Oh, well, nothing's changed yet. It's only been 3 days. I don't think that's the point. And in fact, I really think now more than ever, the point is mentally, how are they going and are their beliefs changing? That's all I'd have to say on that.
It's a great self-audit, isn't it? If I'm getting to the end of a consult and I don't know when or why I'm going to be rebooking someone, it probably says a lot of where your future planning is at. And if you were just rebooking a week's time because the plan was to just do more hands-on and I'll work it out later, it's a nice way to go, okay, well, I need to be better at this. How do I come into these sessions more prepared? Use some of our principles that we talk about, Sunday night, look at your list, and if they get better, what do I do? If they're not getting better, what do I do? Come in more prepared so you can rebook effectively, because it doesn't work anymore to get to the end and go, yeah, I'll see you in a week and we'll do a bit more hands-on and free you up and go from there. We just can't get away with that. So it's exciting though, because it's going to lift the standard of all of our communication, lifts the standard of our planning and management ahead. So we can only benefit as long as we actually sit down, look at it, revise and improve.
And I love what Jade said of conviction. A lot of it is going to be us believing in ourselves and the treatment that we're doing and how we're delivering that. So if you get to the end of that consult and you don't truly, or you're not really sure about when they should be coming back, that's going to come across to them. So just really believing in yourself. And that talks to what Beck Fear said of, I think in helping patients see the value in rebooking is the challenge. We do self-treatment techniques during the session, send a PhysiTrack program. So I think I have been finding it difficult to vocalize the follow-up. They now have the tools to self-help. And I agree with that. They've definitely got the tools to self-help themselves back. However, they probably don't have the accountability and the guidance that you provide. And maybe it's about reframing yourself from whatever type of therapist, whether you're physio, osteo, podiatrist, etc., to think more like you're a health coach and you're sort of helping this person through this. And it's not just a physical problem. There's likely a lot of other factors, and that's what we're helping them with. It's accountability, it's being there for them, it's listening to them, and it's guiding them along that journey rather than fixing them. I think that's how it helps me to perceive the rebooking side of it.
I love that. I love Jade Scott's on. She's very fired up about, I think it's the next slide, which is about personal branding and clinic branding. So I hope you can stick around for that, Jade.
Should be good. All right. Anything else to touch on for rebooking? Any more questions on the online rebooking? Any other things that are working or aren't working?
It's a good point though there, that that's probably that's probably the counter argument. Well, if you're empowering people, they're empowered now, so you don't need to see them. I'm not a psychologist, but I don't think that's how behavior change occurs. I love what you said there about being a health coach, checking in on beliefs and just nudging them towards it. And not everyone needs that. There are some patients that once you show them what they do, they're away. Oh, it is the next slide. Oh, Jade's Jade's here for this. Good. What are your thoughts, guys? You start on this because I had a real big chat with Jade before the call.
Jump in, AZ. I'm just going to go through and mute someone.
All right. I think the big question here is, as we may be doing less in the clinic, a lot more personal social media pages or social personal brands are getting established, and there's probably a lot of confusion of whether this is, I guess, the right thing to do or not, and how does that sit with your clinic, and have you had discussions with other business owners? So obviously Mick and Jade talked about it at length, and they might jump in later, but my personal view is if there's open communication between everyone, there usually shouldn't be an issue. I think if I'm a business owner and one of our team members comes to us and says they want to start their own page and talks to me about what they want to post and how does that work with the expectations we have as a clinic with our own social media, I think you should be able to clear that up and move forward and be successful together, versus one day you see one of your team members start a page and start, potentially sharing your clinic's content as their own. That's where I think, in my opinion, it's probably clear cut. We probably know that's not okay. And it's not that you're not allowed to share the clinic's information. It's just have a conversation about it. It's a bit of that just common courtesy, common sense rule. So it does depend on obviously what that side hustle is. Like, is it specific to a niche? Like, I want to be the running physio, or I want to be the podiatrist for netballers. And do you work in a clinic that also markets to those populations? Yes, no. But I think just end of the day it comes down to open, honest, clear communication and get everyone on the same page like anything else. What are your thoughts, Pete?
I just think I sit on the side of I don't mind if people want to go and create their own personal brand. If they want to share the stuff from their clinic, as long as it's branded as ours, then I'm totally fine with that. I don't see too much of an issue. I see a lot of clinic owners who, when their team members have good followings, will ask them to.
Leo wants to go this way.
So I'm talking about. They'll ask them to share their stuff, and I think that it can go the other way as long as there's a bit of respect in there. And I think it just comes down to communication. If you want to do that yourself and you're an employee, talk to your business owners, let them know what you're doing, and vice versa. I think it's just all about communication. Jade, can we bring you in? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. I've unmuted you.
I'm out walking with two kids. I'm out in the park, but that's okay. Thank you for unmuting me, and hello, everybody. I think, look, I've looked into this for a couple of days now. And can you still hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you fine.
Oh, yeah, great. And obviously there's areas of conflict. I mean, communication is key here. Having these conversations with your staff and what their intentions are is obviously really pivotal. But the problem I think arising from a lot of this is a mine versus yours mentality. And if you're engaged, particularly on JobKeeper, and you're employed by somebody to be creating content, then technically that IP is owned by the company. And there's a lot of legalities surrounding that. Where my fear lies is that when you've got employees or staff doing all this beautiful content, when does that come a point where, well, I want this for my page and you can have this for the work page? And obviously there's no answer here, and this is me just talking out loud about where I think this is going. But I think outside of the ownership of content and mine and yours is a lot more than that, and it's a generational change, and it's a mindset shift with recognition and validity of becoming your own person and being your own person outside that of a business brand. But the reality is when you look outside of this, and I don't know why health professionals think that they have different rules to everybody else, and I'm probably going to be a little bit controversial here, but if you are an accountant and you are working for an accounting firm, and then you go and set up a separate Instagram page that offers free financial advice during COVID-19 situations. Now, your intention is to help people, much like ours is. But at what point are you meant to be helping for the business, and where your duty of care lies on a personal level? So I think, look, there's a lot of, if you speak to business owners, you'll get a different perspective. And if you speak to young professionals who are being really creative with that growth mindset, then you, of course, want to engage in that as well. And you don't want to do anything that's going to detrimentally affect either person with that growth. But I think what's yours and what's mine mentality is very dangerous ground to tread for legal reasons, professional reasons, and branding reasons.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's a good point of view, and very different to, I guess, how I've seen it. But at the same time, it does make perfect sense. Just to everyone here, who here has a personal or works on a personal brand as well as the business brand? Who here does that? Just quite a few people so far. Darcy, yeah. Is it
I'm
all
just
right?
muting myself again, Pete. Sorry, because I've got kids about to scream.
Yep, no worries. All right, so there's quite a few people that do have a personal brand as well as a business brand. Could I bring maybe Darcy, because you answered first? Would you better unmute yourself and just tell us all a little bit about your personal brand and how that fits into the business as well that you work with?
So I'm an EP at Boost in Melbourne, and before I started working at Boost, I've got my own little business. So I run group classes in aged care, and then also I've got my own Instagram page. So that's using strength and conditioning principles and relating them in a rehab setting. So it's something that we sort of see as mutually beneficial. At one stage, they're probably on par, sort of following and that with the business Facebook page. But it's one of those things, if I do it through work, that's their content. And if I do something and I tag them in it, it's something that's mutually beneficial. And same thing with me. Like, I'll share that on my Instagram page, and they'll share that on their Instagram page as well.
And I think mutually beneficial is the key word there. If you can find that mutually beneficial agreement, that's huge in itself. I might pull Daniel Arbella on, if you can unmute yourself, mate.
Yeah, of course. So same kind of thing. I think communication is key. So I've got Arbella Exercise Physiology. I work in two separate companies. So I'm quite different, I guess. There's the mentoring side with Knowledge Exchange. There's the practitioner side with Movement 101. And I've gotten a huge following, mostly from India for some reason. Don't ask me why. But trying to convert people, I guess, from my following onto those two avenues, and making sure that I'm communicating with everyone and they're communicating with me. That's been the main thing, like always asking for permission before posting something, or tagging Movement 101 in my posts, tagging Knowledge Exchange in my posts, inviting people to those avenues. That's how I've been doing it. Yeah.
And you found that to be quite successful so far?
Yes, I've had 2 people, telehealth conversions, over to Movement 101 in the past. Mostly like family, friends that know me but don't know the company very well. So that's been an easy transition over. And yeah, I've been doing a lot of the telehealth marketing through both avenues.
Oh, that's really good. And what you'll find is that a personal brand builds more trust than, say, sorry, I'm just going to mute you, Jade. A personal brand will build more trust faster than a business brand would. And if you can have both side by side mutually beneficial, you'll actually get a much better overall reach, and you'll be able to build a lot faster. So I think that's what it comes down to, is communication, making sure that you do have the right permissions there so you're not stepping on anyone's toes, and just mutually beneficial. Anything you'd add to that, Mick? Because I know all of your team have their own side hustles.
Yeah, I think the misconception here, there's a couple of things to clean up. When I say side hustle, I'm not saying go out and create a business, and I'm not saying it needs to be for money, and it doesn't even need to be in health. It's probably the first distinction is like all this like side hustle terminology. Man, fucking a side hustle is reading a book. A side hustle is coloring in. A side hustle is meditating. And if you want to share your experience on social media, go for it. And it doesn't need to make money. Probably got a little bit of a bad rap, like that kind of Gary V culture, hustle culture. So it's probably the wrong words. Maybe we change the definition. I think there's two distinctions here. A couple of my crew, like Adrian, the freshman physio, it's a different brand. It's a different business. It's an education company. And, you know, we helped each other build that. And I spent my own money and paid ads to help build that. And that was just something I wanted to do. And I wanted to help him with that. And that's great. And I think there's so much value on that outside of the business and money. There's a lot of selfish value in that. I love seeing anyone I've come into contact with do well. And I love the guy and I just want him to do well. And I had the skill set to help him. So there's that. And like That's Running, Mike and Pat have a That's Running podcast, which is not really health related. But what's interesting is that podcast has gone global and now they're doing telehealth consults for iMove with people in Denmark and Scotland. So that's separate side hustle. Then there's like your physio brand or your EP brand. And that's where what Daniel said, I think we probably haven't been forced to have these conversations because it's never really come down to a legal or a money standpoint. Unfortunately, there's some business owners who will look over their shoulder and see that as a bit of a threat. And unfortunately, there's some team members who go, well, I'm just going to build my own brand and you know, if it turns into something, that's good. So the distinction there is it a separate business? If it's the same business, I think we need to get on the front foot and use this as an opportunity to have the open conversations. What's okay? What's not okay? What is shared content? What is your content? And what are your intentions with that content? If you want to build a personal brand because you want to start your own clinic one day, so good. But just let me know up front because I will help you do that. I would love to help you do that. And then I think of the Richard Branson quote, which is treat people well enough that they'll want to stay. I genuinely believe that helping my team members build those brands, they're going to see the benefits in that enough that they're going to want to continue to work for iMove because they've got someone who's willing to invest time, money, and skill set. And I hope that they do. And then you can call me naive, but if they leave, they were probably going to leave anyway, and there's nothing I can do. So if they left and started that thing, then they were, you know, I would rather have put my all into them and they leave than not do that and they leave anyway. That's just my perspective. I think Jade and I are going to go live on this in a few days about the actual legal standpoints on this, like the actual ownership of the content, which is my biggest weakness. I'm not very good at that. So I'm looking forward to learn about that. Is there anything else? I think I could go on for hours and I'll probably save it for Jade because she's got some wonderful legal advice she's actually looked up.
Yeah, I think like Andrew said, it's just the problem is when there's not that communication, there's not open and honesty around that, and there's not that mutual beneficial relationship. So for any team member, I think it's awesome. Create a personal brand. It's an amazing thing to do, and it's a great way to learn yourself as well. And for business owners, that's great if your team members are doing that, but just have those conversations with them. Let's jump into mental health, and I might get Andrew in on this one because I know you deal a lot around, I guess, helping people through tough times, mate.
Cheers, mate. Look, a lot of this side of things comes back to how well you know the people that you're working with. So for us in our team, we've had a really strong culture and connection with each other, and we had to split our clinics to not have kind of crossover of team members. And so one of the early things we did for their mental health was make sure we had scheduled Zoom meetings with each other. And that could just be clinic related, and make sure our team meetings, our PDs run similar. So we still have that routine. But we also had, I think it was last weekend, we had a quiz day over Zoom. So we could all still interact and hang out. We had to cancel our quarter cuddle. So can we do something in place of it? Like I said, keep that routine, make sure we're still interacting with each other. Things like Slack or any other communication channels or apps are really important right now. We don't want people to feel isolated, or if they're working with, not working the same hours and they're spending more time at home, then not just sitting there worrying about the things that are happening, but also they feel supported and they're in communication with everyone as often as possible. I think, a lot of this, again, like I said, comes back to communication and knowing where people are at. So for me as a business owner, I'm trying to check in with every single team member at least a couple of times a week. And it's not just a Slack message to say, how you going? How you going now? Are you worried now? How is it? It's just seeing how they're going with their projects. It's asking about their clients. Like, it's the same kind of questions you'd be asking. It's just making sure that you're still doing it and not losing that. It's not making sure it's still front of mind, and front of mind for them to be checking with each other. So I think that's been my focus. How about you, Mick, with multiple clinics? Like, we have 2, but you've got more than that. And people have even less people there at each clinic. How have you gone with that kind of stuff?
Well, I think what I've learned from this experience is it's really difficult to know when someone's not doing well. And I used to say, like, the second line, like, just reach out, because I don't know. I can't possibly know what's going inside your own head, and makes it fucking impossible for me as a leader. But then, as I learned more about mental health, and a couple of people really close to me with it, is that's the wrong line. Like, please reach out. People are not going to reach out. You have to check in. It is your responsibility, if you're doing okay, even if you're not doing okay, to check in with someone. And I think it goes beyond that superficial check-in, like you said. I think you need scheduled time, enough time that you can actually ask a few deeper questions. That was my biggest lesson this year, is it's not reach out. You actually have to check in. And I'm generally really positive and optimistic person, and that probably makes it harder for me to see the people that are having a hard time, and harder for me to connect on that level. And in fact, I piss people off sometimes, because it's like, well, you're doing well, and I'm trying to put out as much positive energy, and that can be unhelpful for someone who's having a bad time. The other thing I learned is to see a psych. I'm actually seeing a psych now, which is amazing. I didn't know. I'd never done it before. And I just went to the GP center, and it's like, the doc gave me an EPC for it. It's $110, and I got 86 back. And I'm like, that is the biggest investment that I've ever made in myself for, what's that, $24 out of pocket. Now, I couldn't believe that. I couldn't believe you could see a psychologist with that skill set for an hour, which I'm now doing online, for $24. And I would actually recommend that to anyone. Spend the hour a week on yourself, even if you think you're doing okay, because such good learnings have come out of that for me. And the third thing is, probably, this will bring on a bit of an existential crisis for some people. I would say 3 of my team members are starting to question their career choice. When shit really hits the fan, or when you go through real personal hard times, the positive that comes out of that is you start to question things. You start to reflect. You start to reflect on what really is valuable. And for some people, they're questioning the value of physio, or they're questioning the value of working 40 hours for someone else. So a lot of these things are natural and normal, and I think they're good things. I think that if you're questioning your career choice, or you're questioning working for someone, I think that's good. It's time to slow down. It's time to go internal. It's time to figure out what you really want. So yeah, I mean, they're probably my 3 learnings out of this.
Just Riley asked you about the psychology. If you could just jump on how you went about the EPC quickly for him.
Yeah, so there were other things happening in my life. The GP deemed that I was eligible for 5 visits on EPC, and that the Medicare, the government, then covered $86 of that, and the full price was $110. So that was cool. I'd never done that. It was actually the first time in my life I'd used Medicare. I had to call Medicare because my card was still linked to my old address. So that was cool. That was an experience for me. I'd never actually seen an EPC form as well. What a weirdo.
Love it. One of the things I see floating around at the moment is it's physical isolation, not social isolation. And that's important to remember as well, is just being able to check in and just make sure that we are there for people, probably more so than we ever were, and just giving people room to talk and a safe space to discuss whatever it is that's going on within their life. That's probably been my biggest learning from this. And probably the thing I've noticed is that I'm actually reaching out to people more than I used to. Even people that I used to see daily, I've probably got a better connection with now, because we're actually talking on a deeper level, and not just, hey, what are you doing this weekend? How are you going? You know, how are you feeling through all this? How's it affecting you? How are your family coping? And yeah, I see a lot of positives from that, and just giving people a really safe space to talk, whether it's team members, whether it's your boss, whether it's your patients, just giving people that safe space and asking good questions.
Yeah, awesome, mate. I might ask everyone on if they have any questions, just to ask them now, because we're going to wrap up at around 11. So if there's any questions you have on getting through this, on any of the content presented today, or just anything in general, pay, being a new grad, what courses you want to do, pop them in there now and we'll start going through them. And then we'll wrap up after that. Was there anything else you guys wanted to add at this point, AZ?
No, I think that covered a lot of different areas, and I'm looking forward to just some of the questions that might come through.
Awesome.
Not many.
And how worked the PWYW anonymously? What does PWYW mean?
Ah, gotcha.
Oh, okay, cool. I didn't even know that's what it was called. So PWYW, how did we work that anonymously? So I probably used the wrong word, but say we were using MediPass, which sends the patient an invoice on their phone, and then they just have to click pay. And then what we realized is for that to work, you had to pick an amount. So what is awkward is if I say to Pete, hey, Pete, we're doing consults by contribution. So just let me know what you want to pick. That makes it really awkward because I'm still on the call. So what we did is we exit the call. We say it's consult by contribution, and you just fix us up with a bank transfer. And then we exit the call and they do it after, which allows them to select an amount without the pressure of being on the call and the health professional still being there. So that's how we did that. It was an extra step. It meant we couldn't use the MediPass text feature, which is instant payment. Bloody awesome feature, awesome tech. But we just felt like that was the right thing to do. Good question.
Stephen Escaff, how are we doing during ISO? Pretty good, actually. I'm probably relatively more social than I was before now, which is kind of nice. Used to work from home mainly anyway, so it hasn't been a massive change. Probably the biggest change has just been really being there and helping the team more has probably been the biggest challenge. Having a lot of people there that do look up to and rely on you, and then making sure that you have that time. And this is probably something I didn't touch on, or we didn't touch on at all, is making sure you have some time for yourself each day, each week, doing something that you enjoy doing that just calms and relaxes you. I definitely had to implement that in my own life. What about you guys? Nick, Andrew, any daily things you put in?
Go on, AZ.
Yeah, to be honest, it's probably less busy in the week now. Our clinics aren't open as many hours. It does mean I've been in better routines and habits with my own exercise, which has been nice, and hopefully that can continue once this is all over. And also it's allowed time to work on the non-urgent projects in the clinic, which has been fun. I've been working on a YouTube channel with some of our therapists. Yeah, again, it's more enjoyable right now to not work on the spot fires and the things that are just always pressing as a business owner. So yeah, that's been good. And I think the reality of me, all of us, checking in on our teams means our teams have been checking in on us as well. So I feel well supported by everyone in my team and greater community as well. How about you, Mick?
Yeah, I saw a post the other day which kind of hit home with me, is that people respond to trauma in two ways. They either need time to reflect and need downtime and need to back off and need to be at home, need to sleep more, and others respond by really like hustling more than they would. I kind of never looked at it that way. That really resonated with me, is that everyone's going to respond to this differently. I'm definitely the second type. I've been energized in a really strange way. I'm waking up most days with like, fuck, I've got to get after this, because not only my well-being is on the line, but 12 team members is on the line. So that's challenging me, and it's inspiring me daily to get really creative and think about it. And that's how I've responded personally. But I guess recently I've become more aware that, and I've also been fearful even to say that, which is, I don't think is healthy either. So like, in a way, I've been scared to say to people, well, that's what I've been doing, because I'm getting more awareness that other people aren't doing that well. I don't think that should then censor what I say or how I'm going. But yeah, so I think I've responded in that way, in the second way, and there's no right or wrong there. Yeah, and routine's been healthy. Routine's been really good, which the psych helped me with. Right at the start of all this, I wasn't in routine. And it was just like a separate coach to say, you know, I knew what I needed to be doing, but I just wasn't doing it. And sometimes that's what physio is as well, right? You just need the coach to give you that nudge. So yeah, meditation and exercise daily has been huge for me.
Awesome, mate. As you said, it's just knowing that there are going to be those different responses, and that's okay. As long as we're not trying to push a certain approach on anyone. And if the people we're working with, whether it's our team members, our family, our friends, as long as we're aware how they are, then we can hopefully respond appropriately. You know, I've got team members who do feel the pressure of everything that's happening right now. And those check-ins for me are talking a little bit about that and making sure they have someone to reach out to. I also have, on the flip side, talk about the YouTube channel. I had one of our team members messaging me last night, so it was Saturday night at like 9 p.m. saying she was writing descriptions for YouTube videos. I told her to have a rest and wait till Monday, and she was like, but I enjoy it. So also not discouraging those people who want to do those things either.
Yeah, love it. Lisa Parkinson, you asked, are we finding online consults are the same duration as face-to-face? We are at our clinic finding that they're exactly the same, and we want to make sure that they are, because even though you can't spend time maybe doing hands-on treatment or those types of things, I think there's still a lot we can be doing. I'd say the subjective goes longer now. And when we're doing objective and treatment, we still spend the same amount of time on it. We're just getting them to go through it. We're really, really big at our clinic as well on if you're going to give someone 3 sets or 5 sets of saying, let's watch someone do those 3 or 5 sets. So I think for us, the duration hasn't changed at all. Have you found any change, Mick?
We were 1 hour, half an hour for initials follow-ups, and we just went to 45 for the follow-up. We could probably change this now. It was only at the start to get the team comfortable and to get through any of the tech issues if the net drops out and you need to call. I probably haven't checked back in with my team how that 45 minutes is going. I feel like we could definitely go to half an hour once everyone's comfortable. I feel like even if you've got it down packed though, everyone is going to have some trouble with their internet at some point. So it might be good just to have the extra breathing room in between.
Awesome. Josh, you asked, what's your phrasing for rebooking if your intention is to change their beliefs or behaviours rather than check their symptoms or progress exercises or provide a new exercise? I think it's less for me than about the actual phrasing for rebooking and everything else throughout the consult that's got us to that point. The fact that we are challenging those beliefs, that we do need to check in because I'm not sure how they're going to respond to something, that we are likely going to try and progress something within that, and we're going to continue to educate and to move forwards. I think it's less about what you say in those last 2 minutes and more about the 28 minutes leading up to that, that really you get to that and it's, all right, I want to see you Wednesday at 3 p.m. and we're going to be going through this. We're going to check in on your exercises and we're going to see what we can progress. That's probably how I would handle that.
Yeah, I think just a quick add-on is knowing that, you know, identifying and working with them with their beliefs and behaviours is part of it. We don't need to say that's what I'm going to do next session. We just know it's a big part of it, and we still will be checking the symptoms, progressing exercises, and answering questions as we go.
Anna, I'm curious for clinics doing both online and face-to-face, like you are currently. How are we deciding who needs face-to-face and who can be online? How heavily do patient expectations weigh in on that decision? Mick, how are you guys handling that at iMove?
Yeah, I think patient preference I think patient preference is really important there. I think we're trying to be skillful, not in a deceitful way, but we're trying to be skillful in the way we ask questions to try and get most people online. And I would say we were more diligent with that when COVID was at its peak, because we really just didn't want to be in the clinic. Now that it's starting to flatten and the precautions are in place, I think we've loosened that off a little bit, rightly or wrongly. The ones we're sending into clinic are very acute pain, like people who feel like their knees locked, or they can't weight bear, or they can't move their neck, or they've got that back pain that takes their breath away, like literally can't move. Any fractures, or people who suspect fracture, and any pre or post-op. So they're probably the loose rules around the people we want to see in the clinic first. Everyone else we're trying to get online.
Beautiful. Lisa Clark, what payment method do you use, Mick? Was that a bank transfer in that scenario?
Yeah, we've tried it. Medipass is a wonderful technology. It was HiCaps Go, and now it's kind of Medipass is the tech. What that does is it sits in your Clinico, and you just click a button that says pay with Medipass. It sends the patient a text instantly saying, do you want to pay for your physio session? And it's linked to their credit card and health fund. So in the click of a button, they get the message, and in a click of the button from their end, you get paid, plus they're able to claim their health fund. It's instant. It's done in 2 seconds. It means there's no HiCaps machine. It means there's no transferring your health fund card, then your credit card. It means there's no paper receipts. It's a wonderful time saver. We were implementing that in our clinic, but now with telehealth, it's amazing. The only reason we went away from that is because you had to choose the amount. And for our contribution model, we didn't want to put pressure on people. So now what we're doing is it's just a bank transfer. They have our bank details, and they're picking the amount to pay to us after the consult.
Awesome. And further for payment online sessions, are you taking payment before the session or at the end?
Afterwards.
Afterwards for Mick, we take payment prior at our clinic. And so I don't think there's a right or wrong with that. It's just whatever works best with your system. Graham, you see a few rehab patients via telehealth, total hip replacements and total knee replacements, and you found it difficult to determine when it's safe to progress their mobility to off crutches or from 2 crutches to 1 crutch. I think that would be challenging. I don't see too many of those myself. I imagine you really do want to be there to support that person, or have someone there that can support that person as they are starting to make those first few steps. And even just remembering when I broke my leg and I had to learn to walk again, just having someone next to me that I trusted, that when I took that step, I knew they were there if I wasn't feeling good. What do you reckon, guys? How would you handle that? I think that's challenging in itself.
Very. I think, as you said, can we have someone there, but also probably just knowing that, we might have to be more cautious right now. And we might have to go, look, I would normally look at progressing you to 1 crutch right now, but we're going to give it an extra week where I still want you to have it there, just maybe not relying on it as much. It's hard. Like every situation is going to be different. So, use your best judgment, but probably just a bit extra caution because we can't be there ourselves at this point.
Good. Dean Newman, this situation has been the best thing for your own personal mental health. I'd love to know why, if you could just unmute yourself and just let us know why this has been so good for your mental health, if you're still here. Nope. Going to the next one.
For the 6 months prior to sort of COVID hitting, I was having struggles because our entire focus was on trying to grow the clinic. And I think this has given me something to really, really sort of laser focus on. So all of a sudden, it's like I feel like I actually have the capacity to help my team members, where 3 or 4 months ago, before all this happened, I was kind of struggling with my leadership. And this has really given me something that I've had to I've had to step up. I didn't have a choice in the matter.
That's good. I like it. And how do you think coming out the other side of it is going to look now?
A whole lot more confident that, I've got my mojo back. So yeah, it's we're planning for everything on the other side now, rather than just, you know, how do we get through this? I'm very much a numbers person. I've run the numbers. I know what's going to happen over the next couple of months if everything, you know, goes according to plan. And that's given me confidence to know, you know, that coming out the other side of this, we've got a plan to go ahead with.
That's awesome, mate. Congratulations. I love to hear that.
Right.
It's so good hearing the positivity throughout this as people find something that they can pivot to, or where they can, I guess, really find themselves, which is what you've nailed. Good man. Next question. Are you working the hardest you have in your whole life? I'd like to hear that. Graham, wondering if we have any tips, simply because of the safety aspect and the way telehealth is. And was that around the total knee replacement, toe hip replacements? It's an interesting question, I think, when you look at the legality of it as well, when you start to look a little bit deeper into would you be liable if that person then fell over, had a fall, or damaged that joint? Be a really interesting thing to look a little bit further into with your insurer, I think. I think, like Andrew said, however, I would just err on the side of caution and take a little bit longer, build up a little bit more strength first, and make sure you have someone else there for sure. Just going through the questions. Cherie, how are people finding back-to-back online consults? Are you allowing 5 to 10 minutes breathing room? At our clinic, we don't have any breathing room between them. We've got 30 minutes for a follow-up and 60 minutes for an initial. And as with any consult, we always try to look at it as you've got a 25-minute consult and then 5 minutes at the end for a bit of note-taking or to get ready for that next consult. How are you guys doing that, Mick? Do you go back-to-back?
No, we're trying to, yeah, I think that's the idea of the 45, is to allow the 10, 15 minutes breather. I think if you have a smooth consult with internet, you're going to get 10 or 15 minutes breather. As it becomes more comfortable, I don't think we'll need that. Just like when you're a new grad, you usually have longer. Yeah. So, yeah, I think start with more and then you can cut it down.
Not good. Sorry, I'm just going through all the questions here.
Pete, I think we'll wrap it up. Any leftover questions we'll answer on iMoveU group. Just mindful of time, and everyone go and enjoy their Sunday. Thanks for being on, everyone. If there's any leftover questions, we'll put them in iMoveU. Thanks for joining us. We just wanted a check-in with everyone and a casual chat. I enjoyed it. Good way to start my Sunday. We'll see you all on the group. Thanks for joining me too, AZ and Pete.
Thanks, guys. Catch you later.